Well, hello, and welcome to Momentous Live, episode 126. I'm Tristan Jutra,
I'm Tasia Custodi.
And I'm Gray Williams.
and not with us today, once again, is Will Silver, who should be back with us in about 2 weeks. We miss you, Will, and look forward to your return. Shall we start with some quasi follow-up?
We shall.
We've discussed SpaceX a number of times over the last couple of years here on Momentous Live, including what they've done with their various rockets and Dragon capsules. Well, there's all this space travel of the last few years it's gotten kind of people have gotten almost blasé about it because there's been a lot going on with NASA proper and then SpaceX on behalf of NASA and other private companies such as Blue Origin. You may have forgotten that SpaceX had 4 astronauts up at the International Space Station, the ISS, for the last 186 days. And if you were in Florida last night, you may have been wondering, what is that streak going across the sky? I saw on Twitter, the people are, X, like SpaceX, bringing the brands together.
Boo.
Boo indeed. This guy was filming this thing. It looked like a fireball going across the sky, and apparently it was the re-entry of the Falcon capsule. And it was a nominal return. Dragon is healthy. The parachutes performed as expected, and the recovery teams did great. And the Dragon did great, and the crew appeared to do awesome. I'm not sure who's writing the press releases or doing the quotes here for SpaceX nowadays, but it's kind of fun. Gray is our official momentous space correspondent. What do you believe that this represents? The conclusion of this, mission, half-year mission from this private company on behalf of NASA, these 4 astronauts at the space station. Does this bode well for the future, or do you have concerns about the quasi-privatization of space?
No, this is the right thing to do. This is working as intended.
Mm-hmm.
We use public dollars to figure out how to go and do something, and then private companies can come in and go and do the thing faster, better, as the public goes on to do new things. This is how science is supposed to work, at least under capitalism. So looking at this right now, this is the completion of a private contract with NASA, safety intact. There's some things that happened on the last mission that they're looking to see. Did they happen again on this mission? There was a bit that froze up. So they're checking to see, is this actually going to be an issue? And if so, how do we solve it? They've got a whack more missions to go. So this is the completion of the original contract. They've received more contracts since, possibly because Boeing is kind of duffing it. You kind of take a look at the military industrial complex, as they say, and it does seem like they were paying $3,000 for a hammer. It does really seem like they don't actually have the right stuff, if you will. So
I see what we did there.
Thank you. Looking at this, I'm happy for SpaceX. Hopefully it lights a bit of a fire under everybody else. Again, another rocketry pun. So I'm good with it. Bring it on.
Now, you mentioned the $3,000 hammers and the like, and one could argue that one of the primary reasons that you see those sorts of prices with military and space contracts is the crazy multi-year long procurement process that's involved. And as having a company ourselves, I'm still learning, we bid on government contracts at various levels of government. And the process can be very time consuming, and you need to recover those costs somehow. And those costs often get embedded into, the actual work that you're doing. So I kind of get that side of things. I think, to your point though, that some of the legacy contractors, shall we call them, such as Boeing, and then you could, drifting into the military side, you can look at like Raytheon. Lockheed Martin has done a lot of work with NASA over the years and whatnot. Maybe they got a little fat and happy. So not to say that they didn't do
Dining
great
on
work.
Dining on pork. Yeah. So this is the problem. Like, Alabama is a state that was built on pork on space contracts, right? And so looking at this, yes, Like they have grown a little fat and a little happy, and here's the plucky underling going, "I'm going to eat your lunch because you can't reach it anymore." And so, like, they won't be left behind by any means. There was, interestingly enough, a second thing last night in Florida. There was a launch. The Pentagon launched something.
Oh, and no one knows what it is, and they're not saying, right?
Awesome. Enough said.
So
ray guns in space. Like Ronald Reagan in space.
They just got to start some more fires, right? With their directed energy weapons.
Non-denominational space lasers. Thank you very much.
So hopefully the legacy contractors, as we alluded to, have will take some of the lessons from SpaceX, such as the innovations that they've pioneered, including reusable rockets,
up to 15 times,
reusable capsules, and so on. And that's one of the things, like, they've managed to get the costs down, and that's why NASA has awarded this number of projects to SpaceX. So competition is good. That's why it's supposed to work. Less cronyism, more actual capitalism.
We should say that they said the capsule can be reused up to 15 times, which is astounding. Like, it's delightful. It kind of brings the spirit of the space shuttle back into this reusable idea. But they're also looking at it and going, if this thing isn't ready, if it's not right, we're not going to use it. If we hit 12 times, and we're not going to push for 15 if we can't make this thing work. And it's like, harkening back to Challenger, harkening back to Columbia. Yeah. Cool. Good on you.
Now, in another quick bit of quasi follow-up in the space realm, we've talked in the past about resource extraction from the moon and asteroids. And I just wanted to direct folks' attention to a recent article on Gizmodo, basically asking, will mining the moon and asteroids be worth the trouble? Now, Gray, does this contradict Betteridge's law?
It does. This is the anti-Betteridge. And I would point out this is probably, being that it's Gizmodo, written by AI. So Kevin Hurler doesn't exist.
And for those following along at home, and they may not be aware, Betteridge's law, it refers to the type of clickbait articles that are out there. And if the headline asks a question, the answer is usually no. It's like, is Tasia Custodi secretly a crypto fascist?
Whoa, easy.
There's no secret about it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So in this case, will mining the moon and asteroids be worth the trouble? Yes, it will. We need to stop tearing Earth apart. We need to stop fighting over the little bits of land here that have little bits of things that we need to make the other stuff with them. And we need to go rip apart the rocks that are in space that have no life on them. And as far as we know, we're not sentient. If they are, I regret what I've just said. And I apologize to the space rock reviewers.
Well, I mean, there are some people at the extreme ends of various philosophies, environmental and otherwise, that would say, well, that's the last thing we need to go do is, be like the virus that we were accused of being in the Matrix and spreading beyond the Earth to other planets and like ravaging them. Yep. It's a question of like how accessible are these materials in the moon. I think we talked last week about things like like water, helium-3 that you referred to. There is on some of the asteroids, they're talking about nickel and Johnny Ives' favorite,
aluminium.
Mm-hmm. and it seems, I guess, one of the key things with this whole endeavor is how accessible will these metals be, whether it's on the moon or in these asteroids. Like, it's going to be a lot of money to get the equipment up there to do this mining. And so the ROI's got to be there for anyone that takes it upon themselves, whether it's, the multi-billionaires, Musk, Bezos et al., or funded by the government or otherwise. But that's the thing. The payoff could be huge.
There's a great novel.
Say again?
There's a great novel written by David Brin entitled Earth. And in that novel, an astronaut is up in the space station and basically replicates his own consciousness through their metaverse thing and downloads it into a self-replicating robot. Basically creates a bunch of, I think his name's Dave. It's always Dave. And they send some into Dave's out to and they're basically building themselves as they go, I think from like Moon Regolith. And then when they get there, they report an asteroid to make more of them. And it's like, he said that there you go. A little bit of, rapid reproduction to using the assets that are there. You don't need to fly Bruce Willis et al. Up there to do the mining. You send one that knows how to make more. And they know how to make more. And they tell two friends, and they tell two friends, and so on. Yes, it's going to be worth it. And anyone who is arguing otherwise has a vested interest in seeing us rip the Earth apart, probably because they own part of it that has the valuable stuff on it. That's the long and the short of it. There's no other explanation. Ad reductio ad absurdum. Like,
now, Tasia, I know that you are generally one who favors preserving the Earth, but what do you think about the philosophy of those who say that we should preserve these other heavenly bodies, so to speak, and not spread this human virus elsewhere?
I feel like we've already destroyed Earth. And so now, being terrible humans that we are, just because we can doesn't mean we should. But
just refresher,
it's like
Agent Smith
people
was
are
the
just-
bad guy, by the way, in the Matrix. So we're not actually viruses. That was just like a racist
just
comment
feel
on
like,
his part.
more of a prion.
Do we have to do this?
Yes.
Well,
No.
if you want to keep
Just stop everything.
If you're one
Stop what
space
you're
rock
doing
away
to
from
the
not
Earth.
existing.
Like, it's terrible.
Tasia, if you want those rare earth metals for your next iPhone and/or Pixel phone, we got to get it from somewhere.
No, we're gonna just 3D print things and
From
I don't know. I don't have the
from the
answer,
bones of our ancestors.
but it does not need to be from the moon.
Filament green is people.
Leave everything alone.
So, I guess our next headline is: does Tasia Custodi have a vested interest in continuing to mine the Earth?
She lives in Arizona. I'm just saying.
Speaking
Twist my
speaking of
words.
desolate landscapes.
America.
Okay, some other happy go Jackie follow up here. Another story that we covered, a couple years ago now on Momentous Live.
What?
Apple's foray into detecting CSAM, child sexual abuse materials, and getting a little enthusiastic about its scanning on local devices and promising not to sync that with iCloud and whatnot, but giving warning messages to youngsters and perhaps their parents and the like. And then they quietly abandon those efforts. Gray, there's a little bit of update that you found on Ars Technica about this. And of course, Apple seemed to have stepped in it, even though they had the right intentions. What's this latest update?
So they're stepping back their efforts in this particular vein, I think, because looking at how the system was operating, they have decided that it could be an attack vector. And considering how advanced, I think, some bad actors have been in this space, I think Apple is looking out and saying, okay, we're not solving a whole lot of problems here. So I don't know. They would probably have the data on how many positive hits they got. So looking at the program and saying, okay, this thing wasn't really working as intended, but we do have some things that are working as intended, which is notifying users and of their options if they receive material like this or if they're being targeted for material like this. So rather than looking at libraries and trying to identify hashes, they're basically looking at images in real time, obviously hashed, and identifying using machine learning on device. This could be risky. Here's some information for you about it if you want to engage that way. And I think they're finding good results that way. So there are a lot of safety groups right now that are saying that Apple needs to go back to doing what they were doing. Apple's saying we can't do it safely. And you know what? Unfortunately, this stuff exists in the world, and there are people who create this stuff in the world. The safety of everybody is important, and the security of everyone is important. And I think we're going to be more safe and more secure with secure devices and teaching people how to handle this rather than going through and either getting false positive because of bad actors or catching a few people because they were sloppy.
In other follow-up, we have some Reddit news, again, that we've covered over the last several months. with the great blackout in response to Reddit's change of policy and huge increase in API access fees, which effectively put most third-party apps out of business, including fan favorite Apollo. Now, the Great Mod Purge is happening. What is that, Gray, and what are the implications?
So anyone who took their subreddit offline or took it to NSFW or made it private was basically sent a message from Reddit saying, hey, we're going to strip you of your mod privileges if you don't flip it back on. I have gone through and flipped mine back on, and I'm now taking just draconian moderation practices. Somebody uses a semicolon incorrectly, and they're banned. It's just...
The grammar Nazis are in charge.
It's a complete dick move, and I absolutely love it. But what we're also seeing is that a lot of mods didn't. A lot of mods were like, you know what, line in the sand. I'm free labor, and go F yourself. So they have been replaced. And in many cases, they're being replaced by people who have no idea about the topic that they're moderating. And in one case, someone, I can't remember what it was, the topic that she had volunteered to moderate. It's in there somewhere, but it has, I think it's 3D printing, and she's got nothing related to 3D printing in her she knows nothing about it, and ended up like in that space trying to moderate what was going on there. Do you need to be an expert to moderate something? You don't need to, but I would imagine if you were trained as a moderator and you were moderating a topic that you weren't familiar with, you'd be able to stumble along. Or if you're trained in the topic, you'd be able to figure out moderation. Figuring both out at the same time has led to Reddit being a dog pile. So it's, like things are getting bad. Search results are becoming nigh useless. It sucks, and they've done it to themselves.
It'll be interesting to see what the implications will be for Google search results, which rely heavily on Reddit, and not to mention all the large language models, which have scoured Reddit quite exhaustively over the last year or more as well. All right, so that's it for follow-up. Going from one kind of noise to another. Tasia, I think this story comes from the department of we're in the wrong business. What is going on with Spotify and white noise?
Truly. So Spotify is limiting ad payouts for white noise podcasters. So
to be clear, this is not a racial thing. This is white noise podcasters, not white noise podcasters.
It's like apparently podcasts of just ambient sound, if you will.
The cool whip of audio.
So yes, cool whip. So
never gets old.
So basically Spotify is, I'm not going to go so far to say they're hemorrhaging money, but they're trying to figure out ways to cut back a little bit. And so what they've done is they're essentially saying, like, we're not going to put our marketing budget towards white noise podcasts anymore. So they're going to limit them, take them out of the ambassador ads. Now, this is just from Spotify. So they can still have like automated ads that play, and if
which is great if people are trying to use white noise to get to sleep. That's what you need.
Right? You really want, like, do you know how I sleep? My Casper mattress, blah, blah, blah. Like, it's not really what you want, but they'll still be able to have like the automatic ads. Of course, if they have other things like subscribers and listener support channels and stuff like that, that's all fine. These are just, it's nothing to do with the third party stuff or stuff they're doing separately. It's just stuff coming directly from Spotify. So I guess with Spotify and their ambassador ads, like they would have you, if as the podcast host, you would like read an ad spot, and Spotify would like pay you out for the ad spot. They're not doing it anymore. They're going to save the millions of dollars. But
that they wasted on trying to get into podcasting, and it's like not going that great because they overspent on exclusives. But
yes,
Megan and Harry.
The craziest thing of this is like, I was reading that some, like, Bloomberg reported that like some of these podcasters that are white noise podcasters make up to $18,000 a month.
I told you we're in the wrong business.
Like, but hang on, just through that program. So just through the ambassador ads. I know, everybody.
we could do that too.
So that's not including whatever other monetization streams they have, but just that ambassador program. And it was like, first of all, I need to round robin this immediately, because until this came across my Google News this morning. I did not even know that a white noise podcast was a thing. See, Tristan, did you know?
Well, I did read the article I saw a related article a couple of days ago, so I kind of knew, but also.
But did you only know because of the
I'm just trying
article,
to
or
think
did you know because you're like, oh, white noise podcast, gotta get into this?
I was familiar with background noise type stuff, like coffitivity.com, for example. I think we may have talked about before on the show, and other types of sleep aids. But yeah, the notion of just pure white noise, and there's probably like brown noise podcasts as well too, which is slightly different. It just speaks to the diversity of the type of content on the internet. There's always some wild little niche that someone always thinks of before we do. But I'm telling you, our angle, artisanal white noise, like we do, we not handmade, mouth made per se, and we have our trio. Or when Will's back, we have like a quartet, like the old timey days.
I was in a barbershop quartet in high school.
There you go. Was it a barbershop white noise quartet though? I mean, that's the angle.
We could harmonize.
We're going places, I tell you.
Yeah,
we could harmonize. But yeah, like Spotify is saying that just this one move should gross them another 38 million a year.
By just like paying people
less. How much
less.
were you paying white noise podcasts? And are there this many? And we're just learning about this? I'm shook. Also, I quit and I'm going to do a white noise podcast.
Well, this reminds me of some of the angles that people were taking of Spotify a couple of years ago, where they were doing generative music and just posting it onto Spotify, and there were other types of low quality audio, getting it up there, and then using these other systems to go and listen to the streams. And it's like this whole circular economy, and it was a bit of a scam, and Spotify did clamp down on.
Sounds like crypto,
right? So, yeah, why didn't we think of it first? That's all I got to say.
Well,
truly,
so we
truly in shock.
So there is white noise, but there are also other types of noise. So there's brown noise and pink noise.
Mm-hmm.
Have they said anything about them?
Just white noise.
We got to get in there.
These articles have mentioned the category of like ambient sound.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm wondering if they're going to be targeting all that kind of just general ambient sound and not just like a specific.
Yeah, like what about the coffee shop sounds that you would get on Coffitivity, and like some people find it easier to concentrate and focus when working when they have certain ambient sounds around them, or especially ones that are a little more anodyne or pleasing than what they might have in their own home environment. So maybe there's some untapped niches, but of course, I'm sure everything's been done.
Is there a pink noise that isn't ambient? Something that's very specific. We've fed the Gutenberg Bible through a processor, and here it is as pink noise.
Get the algorithms on the case. All right. No insert segue here.
No, we're moving on. It's because we're all personally thinking about what we could have done with our lives.
How about pipe the sounds of electric vehicles and make that a Spotify? I don't know. Gray, I found this for you, and I thought you might be interested.
I'm excited.
Being a Mini Cooper fan yourself. Mini's new Cooper EV centers a giant circular OLED or OLED, organic light emitting diode display on the dash. That's a lot.
Yeah.
That's a lot going on there. So 2025 Mini Cooper EV. Fantastic. Glad to see the BMW is continuing to electrify their fleet. We're going to talk more about BMW in a minute. What are your thoughts on what we're seeing so far from this Mini Cooper EV, including the very different type of screen in their interior?
A circular OLED this is great. I love this. This is very Mini, right? They've always had these sort of like weird interfaces, and like to start my car, I've got a flip switch. It's really neat. So they've had a lot of circular elements in the brand since its inception or re-inception in the early 2000s. It's cool. It's weird. It's different. It's Mini. This is Mini.
Tasia, you have thoughts. Go, please.
If you know.
This is upsetting. Now listen, I love a good round design. I'm much more like when it comes to car design, I'm much more of a rounded, even like with a light kit or like fenders or whatever,
The-
fins, whatever.
You must have loved the new
spoilers.
Beetle when it
I'm
came out in the early 2000s, for
I did.
example.
yes,
The-
love a rounded
the vase?
design. But
Awesome.
this is like I don't understand functionally. I think I'm just questioning. It just looks like a big clock.
Or a record.
Like if I were to describe it. Or yeah,
Or a wheel.
a record. And I feel like it takes up a lot of visual space by the steering column. So I'm just not sold. I think it's more of like a novelty concept than a functional slim dash display, if that makes sense. Like to try to explain it to people. Like it's a freaking circle in the way. Like I don't know.
So-
like to the right of your steering wheel, it's a giant circle that pops out from on top of the dash.
If I squint right now and look at this, I see the silhouette of the dash on my Mini, because it's got the steering wheel, this, and then it's got a half arc, which is where the entertainment system is, and it's like a rectangle with circles inside it, but it looks just like this. The only thing that's different is the screen is now completely circular as opposed to being surrounded by a bunch of crappy plastic. This floats.
Gray's gonna get this.
Not this one. I've got to go big. So as soon as they've got the
You're
country
buying this car just for this.
and it displays pogs quite nicely. If you have a pog collection, you can scan them all
No.
in.
Full screen pogs, finally.
Yeah.
The thing we've been waiting for. It took till 2023.
Mini's back in pog form.
Like
So this reminds me of some of the technology we saw from Sharp 10 years ago or so with their LCD panels taking all sorts of different shapes. And it was, I don't think they were OLED at the time, but this is just the next iteration. See, we're not limited to squares anymore. And it's kind of cool. And it like Tasia said, it does do your head in a little bit. Now, I think it's just a question of taste, whether one prefers something like this or a giant hulking rectangle in your middle of your console, like you're seeing in Teslas, whether they were the portrait mode kind or the landscape mode kind. And so many other car makers are taking the opportunity from of electrification to move so many controls into these touchscreen panels. And I get it from a minimalist aesthetic point of view. I, for one, still like having a certain number of physical controls for a few things that you might use more frequently. Some cars are taking it to extremes where you need to, if you want to open the glove box, you need to do that from a touch panel. Tesla's even experimented with doing turn indicators from the touch panels. Like they're just pump the brakes, folks, so to speak. I mean, hopefully we won't have to like use the brakes with the touch panel too.
So just to be clear, this all seems always fun when everybody wants a new gadget and a new tappy tappy tappy. More of this means more stuff can break. Okay, so when one thing goes awry electronically,
and nothing works.
She's down. Nothing works. Just keep that in mind.
So I will say the interesting things about this: the screen circular. Okay, cool. They're building their own in-house operating system. It's not BMW iDrive anymore, which is great because iDrive sucks. I've got a Bluetooth thing that, like, the code is spaghetti. So if they're writing in the house, that's great. I don't know if you noticed, but they've got their own little mini assistant. There's a tiny little dog that's running around.
Yeah,
that is so kind of weird.
I liked him better the first time when he was called Bixby.
Thank you. Yeah. So it's like, I don't know. I'm happy for them. I'm still probably going to use CarPlay if I get this.
Well, that's the thing, is that are they going down the GM road where no CarPlay allowed or Android Auto allowed here? Because
that's a forced eject. Straight up. I'm out. I'm hard out. I shouldn't say that. I'll give their operating system a test drive, literally. And if they cannot impress me in 15 minutes, done.
I see two remaining use cases at the very least for this, because it is intriguing and it's always neat to see new form factors. One is headrest for a Borg. You get the right Get the right,
Sleep data.
screensaver going on there.
Yep.
2, if they don't have some sort of app that you can activate, I guess maybe when you're parked, that lets you do your mobile scratch DJ situation, that's a huge mess. I mean, I wish Will was here to comment on it, but come on. It's just asking for it.
Agreed.
Also, your toddler is probably going to want to grab it and use it as a steering wheel as you drive. And how many accidents is that going to cause?
We should have put the brakes on there.
Down, Rugrat. All right, moving on to other BMW related news. So this past weekend was some big auto showcase whose name escapes me. But one of the things I wanted to pluck out of there was the unveiling of BMW's Vision Neue Klasse, which harkens back to their they had a I've got to pull it up here. When it refers to their cars, their line of cars that they launched back in the early to mid 60s. And unfortunately, I don't have the link on me here. We'll pull it up later and put it in the show notes. But that's when we saw the cars like the 2002, the Bavaria, and the cars which sort of, I'm knocking my glasses off my face here. I'm so excited. That presaged the launch of the mid 70s, late 60s, early 70s cars from BMW, which evolved into their current form, but a lot of classic looks. What BMW is trying to recapture here is that kind of classic spirit as they continue to electrify their fleet. And I just wanted to get from the two of you what your thoughts are on this looks. These are, again, are concept cars, and you may recall we saw Mercedes-Benz concept at CES. Was that 9.5 years ago now? That was kind of interesting. That was like a fully autonomous sort of setup, more like a lounge. But
I'm still waiting for it.
Exactly. Well, people have some issues with autonomous vehicles still. But looking at the design here, I mean, it looks decidedly futuristic for sure. But at the same time, I think some of other BMW's more recent concepts, and some of it is actually filtered into their production vehicles. It looks like they've been beaten with an ugly stick, quite frankly. Some of what they've done with the kidney designs, just like way out of control.
But see what I mean of the harsh edges. This is what I'm talking about.
These are.
I want a rounded edge. I don't need some sharp corner coming at me.
Exactly. And this looks like some sort of, I don't know, psychotic beaver. This one here, that was that was one of the iX, the 2022 iX line concept. And hopefully they're going to move away from those. Of course, they always have the split grille, and they used to be small and tidy. And they've kind of revisited the split grille and illuminated it here and softened some of the edges from that we saw in their prior concepts. So, Tasia, any thoughts on what we're seeing in this Neue Klasse from?
Still unattractive to me. It almost looks like it's like a point in the front, like it comes together in the middle at a point. It's not as ugly as some of the other concept cars, but I feel like car manufacturers try to make or like pitch their concept cars are always cars you see in futuristic movies. And it's like, I don't want that. I want you to think of something different. I want you to think of something useful and actually get me a prototype that I can put on the road. Like, this concept nonsense. Like, what is the safety of an all glass? I don't want to be driving around surrounded by all glass. Let me tell you, first of all, I like some privacy. Thank you very much. Okay. Second, it is hotter than a you-know-what where I live. You think I want to be driving around with my head exposed all day? It's a hard no.
Tell us how you really feel.
It's just a no for me.
Gray, thoughts on, especially as compared to some of the previous BMW concepts that we've seen in the last couple of years?
Yeah, so it feels like this is Star Trek: The Motion Picture to the previous iterations, Star Trek: The Original Series, and Star Trek Next. They kind of did both before, and now we've got this like 1970s aesthetic, the Enterprise A, where there are again those weird, like rounded but hard lines. Like it does look like a 1970s living room, you know, and that's yeah. I don't think I can have feelings about it. I just don't. I can't invest. I'm like, honestly, the grills, the Psycho Beaver, qu'est-ce que c'est? It's just like, what are you doing? It looks like it needs braces.
Well, that's the thing. It's like those were
what I'm saying.
but that's like, but BMW is moving away from the Psycho Beaver to this more streamlined kind of Neue Klasse. And thank you for finding the link there. We'll bring it up here. This is the original generation of Neue Klasse, which there's some beautiful like other designs of their time. It
looks like a fantastic East German getaway vehicle. I love it.
Exactly.
Like, bring that back.
Oh,
just bring it back. I don't need you to make it look like that got teleported into the year 3000 where you're using cheap material and making stupid design. Like, bring the classic design back then and put your new tech in the classic design.
And while we're doing it, we need a sequel to The Man from U.N.C.L.E.
Yeah. Are you listening?
Paging Henry Cavill. Now,
I'm sorry. Did somebody say Henry Cavill? Excuse me.
Unfortunately, one of the design limitations that we're seeing that is resulting in the homogenization of a lot of designs nowadays is the need for fuel efficiency. And especially as we get into EVs and you're trying to eke as much range out of these batteries as possible. So everything is looks super streamlined. Things are like, I mean, all the Teslas like virtually the same, for example. That's why the Cybertruck was so different and caught people's attention. Of course, it still hasn't shipped however many years later. So to ship a classic boxy design like the 60s era BMWs is great. It's a great idea, but that's, you know, maybe for city driving, you know, hobbyists and whatnot. A lot of hobbyists are putting, you know, crate engines in electrifying old vehicles like we've seen with Ford. We've talked to Ged, friend of the show, Ged Smythe, about that in the past as well. So, I mean, I'm with you. I would love to see a 1971 BMW 3.0 CSI electrified, but it's not, I mean, they're heavy. I mean, part of those materials you talk about, Tasia, some of them might look cheap, but they're super expensive, like composites and whatnot. And the batteries are expensive. And so there's the weight there. So you've got to like save weight wherever else you can. The glass, I get what you're saying about the glass thing. On our current EV, we've got a full-on panoramic glass moonroof, and it's beautiful. I love the light, especially in the wintertime. But in the summer, it does get a little toasty. Great.
So here's the thing: 2 technologies, 3 possibly, that we need to bring back into the fore in order to make this work. The turbine. Chrysler had a turbine car back in the 1963, 1964. Turbines with ram scoops. You get going fast enough, this thing now propels itself. Right? No extra energy required. You get going, boom.
That sounds suspiciously like a perpetual motion machine.
We've got just use ram scoops now. Just look what launched yesterday. Oh, sorry. Anyway, and last but not least, just a nuclear fusion reactor. Perfect.
Mr. Fusion.
There it is.
Back to the future. Okay. So I think we can decidedly say that opinions are mixed on BMW's Neue Klasse. I'm cautiously optimistic. And Tasia, to your point, we see concepts, but then those concepts make their way, usually in some form or another, into production vehicles, usually with the dramatic edges sanded down a little bit.
Unless you're the Chrysler
metaphorically or literally. What's that, Greg?
Unless you're the Chrysler Prowler.
Oh boy, don't
that one snuck through.
What's that, Tasia?
It's all just such a waste of time and money.
Oh, but that's how you get your new ideas is from the prototypes, right? For the concepts.
Just make it.
From drugs.
Do you guys watch American Auto? Because this is what this is sounding like to me. It is a great NBC sitcom with Anna Gasteyer. It's so good, and it's just like, just throw this into it and see if it sticks. Like, that's what I feel like this is.
Wasn't that how they made the Homer?
Yeah, the Homer car designed by committee.
Yeah. The Camionero.
Yeah. That too.
Yeah.
Oh boy. All right. So moving on to I mean, Tasia, you're trying to deny these designers in the lab, the Johnny Ives of the world, their jobs. Well, apparently, it might not be long until AI takes their job, like it's taking everyone else's, right? Gizmodo fires Spanish staff amid switch to AI translator. Great. What's this story about?
This is just so dark utopia. Spanish staff working for Gizmodo, taking English language articles and then crafting them for a Spanish-speaking audience. And so somebody at Gizmodo was like, hey, I found this thing called Google Translate. They've got an AI bot that's translating it. So they fired the staff in a morning meeting. And of course, half the articles now are mistranslated. There are articles that just aren't in Spanish. And basically it says, due to machine learning, there might be some hiccups in this. So here's the original article in English because who cares if it's Spanish?
Do it yourself.
This sucks.
Yeah, I was just going to say, what is even the point? They should have just said, we're only going to publish in one language and y'all can translate using Google Translate yourself.
Here's the button at the top of the screen. Just click that one. You'll be fine.
Yeah.
There's a WordPress plugin that does it, I'm sure.
Well, apparently one of the advantages of the large language models is that supposedly and reportedly, they do a better job of translating even than tools even like Google Translate, because they are masters of language, and they're not simply trained on English, but they are ingesting materials from more and more languages as time goes on. It's not perfect yet, but so, I mean, to have I agree with what you're saying, Tasia. It's not even to pretend. Just say, hey, if you want the article in this language, click here. And sure, the AI can do it, because I get it. Web publishing is a hard, cutthroat business, right? That's why we have things like clickbait. So I get them trying to cut costs, and this applies to other businesses as well. We do e-learning work for companies, and some of them want stuff in multiple languages, but they don't want to pay necessarily what it's going to cost to get in so many languages. So there are AI assisted tools. There are some companies. There's one I can't remember the name off the top of my head. They'll do it through AI, but then they have a whole coterie. Let's get Wes Anderson in here. That's a Wes Anderson quality word. A coterie of live human proofreaders who have expertise in translation. So they will go and review the translated materials. And that way you're getting the best of both worlds. You're getting some efficiencies, some cost savings, and you're still getting that human touch. And that's one thing that we've discussed again over the last couple of years, is that AI is powerful, but it's most powerful when teamed up with a human being, at least for now. Right. So how long humans remain part of the equation remains to be seen. So I think they did this poorly. They're using AI as a blunt instrument here. I think that's the main problem.
It's Gizmodo. Like this.
I love how Ars Technica is throwing shade too. It's like one tech blog reporting on another tech blog. It's like,
but this is like the Globe and Mail reporting on the Sun.
Exactly. All right. Just a wee bit of entertainment news. A trailer crossed our desk a few days ago, because we have to comment on all things Fassbender, and a new Netflix movie coming out called The Killer, starring none other than Michael Fassbender, but directed by David Fincher.
Ooh.
So director of classics such as Seven.
Mm-hmm.
It was Alien 3, which the highly controversial Alien 3, and others. Great director. I'm on board. I mean, this might make me hang on to my Netflix subscription for a little bit longer. It's tough. There's all these stupid subscriptions nowadays. I'm trying to figure out, okay, what do we put on pause for now until this thing comes out? Tasia, you a Fassbender fan? Are you Team Fassbender?
Sure. I mean, I have nothing against the guy.
He's no Steve Jobs. Although he tried to be, but
yeah. I just, you tell me how this is, and then I'll decide whether or not to watch it.
And
it's one of those for me.
And speaking of David, I mean, he played a robot named David in
Alien Covenant?
Alien Covenant. There we go. Gray, thoughts? Is it on? Are you going to add it to your wish list?
Yeah, I might actually see if I can borrow your login.
You can pry it out of my cold dead hands. All right, let's move on
Copy
to
and
our
paste. It's so much easier.
let's move on to our momentous picks, shall we? Starting with Tasia, apparently who wants to live to 100. What's this, Tasia?
Well, there's a new Netflix show out called like Live to 100 Secrets of the Blue Zones. And this author, Dan, I think his name is, he's going around to the different blue zones of the world and trying to figure out if there's a connection or correlation between what all these different pockets of the world are doing. So blue zones are areas in the world where there's a like abnormally high concentration of centenarians. So people that are 100 or over 100. And so he is traveling through them all. We've watched the first couple of episodes. And it's just honestly like it's a nice watch. And it's something where you're not going to be able to just sit on the couch like a lazy little bum when you watch it. Brett and I literally both were like, oop, whoop, indoor walk, and like started like walking around the living room while watching the show because you just see all of these people that are like
Not sitting on
80,
their couches.
90, 100 and what they're doing. And I was like, well, they're not being sedentary. I can tell you that. And so it's just like, so it's just this really cute. And I love like, I don't know, a lot of it reminds me of like kind of like my Nona and Nono and like how family was always like so important and just like they were just working like in the garden, physically moving, doing stuff till the end. And so it was just like, it kind of reminds me of that type of vibe, but very cute show. Strong recommendation.
Also on Netflix. Gray, your
Yes.
momentous pick this week. Last I checked, we did not have a URL.
There you go. Here's that.
Okay, hang on. Oh,
This is actually the grill that I have.
Wow. Okay, we're pulling up Canadian Tire here. Vision Grill's portable ceramic Kamado charcoal BBQ grill with wooden side shelves. Well, that is that's a short description by Amazon standards, but that's still give that a solid 6.5. What is a Kamado charcoal BBQ grill?
So for those of you who are listening along at home, this is a big red egg. They've got the big red egg, the big green egg. This is a ceramic grill that uses indirect and infrared heat to get food to wonderful temperatures. It's great for smoking. Also, the particular grill that I have for Vision Grills is great for anyone who's renting or in a condo where you can't have charcoal flame because you can swap out the innards for a propane system where you taste the meat and not the heat, as Hank Hill would say. So to be in compliance with the building here, I swapped that out and have been grilling up a storm, and it's been delightful. Found some inspiration. Thank you, Merritt, for the desire to use this damn thing. Because I've had it for a couple of years and just been like, yeah, not really grilling. And then all of a sudden it's sent in and nothing's safe. So it's it's a lot of fun. I've got my parents are here this week. Speaking of people who are, going to knock wood, they're in their, I'll say, late 60s plus. We'll call it that. And instead of joining us for the podcast here this evening, they decided to go out for a walk. It's the liquor store. So, it's just
that's how you stay young.
That's right. Right. So I'm looking forward to seeing them back here in a couple minutes. But yeah, the Kamado grill is delightful. I love it. And it's my pick of the week.
Very cool. We actually have a variation of that. It's an off-brand one, but I think, like you, one of the obstacles for using some of these well-regarded grills is that charcoal takes time, and I think a lot of us are aspirational cooks, and it's like, the idea of like, having your charcoal and your whatever, your various types of coals that you use and your wood chips and pellets and this and that and the other thing. And it's like, when does that actually going to happen? Unless you're semi-retired, like say Tasia Custodi. And having this propane conversion, although it kind of defeats the purpose, it's also like, well, then you're actually going to use it more. So I appreciate it.
You still get that indirect heat. You still get that infrared, and it does. I mean, it does cook differently. I did get a chance to use it with charcoal once, and had a friend who had a Burns-O-Matic. It's basically a flamethrower attached to a propane that starts the fire on the coals. I just stood back and was like, this is how fire started. But it worked, and they're well contained inside this thing. There's a felt rim around the middle, so you close it. It's got a soft close. So happy.
But does it have a giant circle on the front?
Fair.
All right, real quick. My momentous pick this week is a movie that's on the theater a few weeks ago called Talk to Me, which came out last year in New Zealand. It's an indie horror flick about a group of friends who discover how to conjure spirits using an embalmed hand.
Oh.
No.
Immediately they become hooked on the new thrill until one of them goes too far and unleashes terrifying supernatural forces.
No.
No.
And hilarity ensues. I hadn't really heard anything about this, and I went in totally cold. Saw it with a friend on their recommendation, and it's like, wow, it was a tight 90 minutes. Starred a bunch of people that I was not familiar with at all. Bunch of maybe some of them are known in New Zealand, but not so much here. I think there may have been one recognizable actress. Oh, Miranda Otto is the one that I did recognize. She played the mum, and I think mum was kind of disappointed in what the kids got up to in this movie. But again, I'm not a big fan of torture porn or slasher flicks or anything like that. This had a little bit of gore, but not too much. It was more about just the freakiness and the supernatural nature, and just playing with stuff that you really shouldn't be playing with, kind of thing. It started taking the whole Ouija board idea another step further, and those kids got up to hijinks, and that'll learn them. So that's Talk to Me, and it'll probably be on streaming sometime soon, because a lot of these movies are low budget and they do their little theater run and they come on to streaming fairly soon. If that's
freaks me out. I can't. I'm such a baby. I can't do scary stuff. I jump multiple times a day. Sometimes I startle myself, and multiple times a day, Brett will say to me, "You love with another person, right?" And he has to announce when I'm coming into the bedroom. And even sometimes when he does that, I'm like, oh! And he's like, what do you want me to do? Not announce it or announce it?
Putting a bell on him?
Like the dog. I always hear the dog coming. Though she startled me the other day. I was sitting here working. This is what a scaredy cat I am. And I was editing, and peripherally, I must just not have seen her. And she comes in here. She's always hanging out with me in here. But she likes to do this thing where she nudges you with her nose. And I did not see her. And the next thing you know, I feel this cold, wet nose on my leg. I yelped and jumped in my seat. She jumped because of my jump. And I was like, this is why I can't do anything scary, because I'm jump scaring myself all day, all the time.
I like it.
Gray, let's start with you for projects, momentous projects this week. You had mentioned in the show notes something about stellar cartography and that there was a URL to come, question mark?
Yes. So we're doing a couple of things here. Actually, just give me 1 second. You know what? Too far. So stellar cartography, it's kind of a new idea where we're taking the idea of maps in video games and turning them into coasters. And so we've got Final Fantasy VI, which is Final Fantasy III here in North America, that we've been working on, and the map through the initial darkness maze in Destiny 2's Coda's End. And so we're kind of dives and engraving them into wooden things. Final Fantasy is kind of cool because halfway through the game, the world gets destroyed. And so you have the world of balance on one side, the world of ruins. So you can flip your coaster over and show the world how you're feeling. Are you feeling positive or Kafkaesque destruction? The other thing that's kind of going on is these things are called domesticons. And they're little icons that, we've been kind of working on. Merritt came up with the original set. And they're the idea here is I'm feeling a little emotionally fragile today. So you can have this on a shirt or And there's a couple of them, like the trash needs to be taken out. There's a little magnet that goes on there. So Domesticons coming soon to a sticker book near you.
Now, are we seeing an Etsy store or a Shopify store, something in your near future?
A Regretsy store.
I regret it. Perfect. And
Tristy doesn't want to do this story. Let's move on.
oh no, I do. Tasia has a very candid, kind of bit more informal YouTube video than usual, and maybe we'll just. Tasia, why don't you just take us away? YouTube invalid traffic bug is destroying my ad revenue. I am just impressed and a little disappointed that you didn't all caps the word destroying. I mean, this is YouTube after all, Tasia.
I should have.
There's still time.
Guns a-blazing. I was afraid they were gonna completely axe me for posting this video in the first place. But yeah, they're still taking my money while running ads on my content, and I'm pissed. So now I have a running list, and there's 65 of us and counting, and I keep adding to it every single day. And some bigger creators are on there as well, and we're all in some DM chats together having the same issues. And like, it's my whole personality. As I told you guys last week, that's my personality now. So every tweet I post is about this now. I'm messaging journalists. And what I think I'm going to start doing is messaging advertisers, because I've about had it. And I think I'm going to go to the source and say, curious to know if you're actually getting payment back, because funny story, your ads are still running on my content and YouTube's keeping my money. So I literally just read an article before we went live tonight about how veteran staff at YouTube think that shorts are killing advertising revenue for long form video, and like it's just eating itself type thing. And I'm bookmarking it to send it to my DM group in the morning, because it's just very interesting to me that this is all happening. It's been a known issue since November of 2022. They refuse to admit it's a bug. And like, literally, you guys, I just went to like the back end of my account. And as soon as we're done here, I'm going to take another screenshot, because now the notice I get is that my channel views were up 26% in the last 28 days because more people are watching you from YouTube search results. Tell me how it's invalid when it's your platform.
I love that song. Has anyone talked
Thank you.
Need some white noise though.
Has anyone talked to Renee Ritchie? Like,
I swear to God, if one more person asks me to do that, he is a PR puppet.
I know, but has anyone talked to him?
Respect to him, and secure the bag, honey. I wish I had my bag, because YouTube came for my bag. So,
but I'm just saying, like, we could. I've got a baseball bat. We could go talk to him.
He's in Montreal. It's a long drive.
It's not that too far.
Where's Negan? I need Negan. No,
we're just kidding.
I stopped
Renee.
watching that show.
Fix the goddamn revenue.
No, like his hands are tied. You know, like I don't want to come for him. He's in the position he's in. You know, and
which is what
he's a PR puppet, and I say that with respect. He is, and like that's fine. But it's just like, don't give us the runaround. So
it's VPNs, Tasia.
VPNs.
Yeah, that was the other thing they're skirting around now, and it's like, if YouTube can't figure out VPNs, but Netflix can, and then YouTube's going to claim it's invalid traffic and take hard-earned revenue from all of us.
3/4 of your traffic is on from VPNs. Sure.
Right.
Speaking of Kafka Ask,
if it,
not anyone's wildest dreams. Yeah.
It's just brutal. So, unfortunately, still in this position. Today marks the 1-month anniversary of them taking my revenue. And I just keep seeing it going down every single day. And it's really depressing. So the light is that I've met a lot of great YouTubers, and they've taken me out of my depression hole, and we're just now making noise. And I knew I was born loud for a reason. I'm not going to shut up, and I'm going to be the most annoying ever in the whole world. So it sucks. So yeah, we're just moving forward. And any journalists, any lawyers want to reach out, I'd take the call. Just saying.
So, Tasia, were you wanting to save it for next week? But there was another little thing that could qualify as a project that's kind of on the same topic that you made an appearance on last week. Or do you want to save that for next week?
Oh, yeah, sure. I don't care. We could talk about it now if we want. I was on the Daily Tech News show as a guest, and they allowed me to blab on ad nauseum about this issue as well on their show, and then ended up naming the episode after that. So after that segment, so that was pretty cool. So I did have an influx of support from them, like people that listen to that show as well, and as well as the DTNS crew, which is really, really nice. So it's just been, yeah, like I got an email this morning from another creator that this happened to, and honestly, it made me cry because it's just like so sad. And I mean, it's the exact same thing that we're all experiencing, and she just like laid it all out in terms of what's happened to her. And I just like told her I wanted to give her a hug because it's just like it sucks so bad. So I don't know. We keep fighting another day. The Rihanna song comes to my mind, but I won't sing it for you because they're swearing in it. But pay me what you owe me.
Well, and tell such point, Tasia, as you start another podcast focused solely on ranting and railing against YouTube. We have another little podcast that we've mentioned previously, but I just wanted to mention that it's finally live on Apple Podcasts. That's AI named this show. We've got 2 episodes live, and a third one will be hopefully going this week if the planets aligned. And then we will update you on other platforms that said little experimental podcast may show up on sometime soon. Now, before we wrap, next week is going to be Apple's September event. And if history is any indication, there'll probably be the revelation of the iPhone 15, iPhone 15 Pro. There's a rumor that the Pro Max might get rebranded the Ultra so that the Samsung people can go, Apple can't innovate anymore. There's rumors about updated Apple Watches. There often is around the same time as well. So just very quickly, Tasia and Gray, there's a number of suspected or rumored features that might appear this week. We don't normally get into rumors, but next week this is going to be happening, and we'll see, if our wishes came true. We're talking possibly USB-C, dynamic island coming to the non-Pro models, thinner bezels, possibly easier to repair, upgraded ultra wideband, upgrade to wireless charging, perhaps aligning with the Qi 2 open standard, periscope style telephoto lens in the iPhone 15 lines of cameras, maybe just the Pro Max, where they rotate some of the optics inside. This is not a pop-up periscope. This is an internal periscope. We could get us up to 6 times optical zoom, which would be nice. There's also been rumors of the ringer switch being switched to a solid state button. I don't know how I feel about that. We'll see. But it could also possibly be reprogrammed as an action button, a generic action button, as with the Apple Watch Ultra. Increased RAM from Pro models, going from 6 gigabytes to 8 gigabytes, and possibly $100 or $200 more. Variable zoom on the high end, the Ultra or the Pro Max. Gray, what are you looking forward to most if you just had to choose one of those updates?
USB-C, because I want like my lightning cables suck. I can never find one that actually works, and I'm tired of hearing Android people kvetch about it. So be gone, lightning. You did your job. Get bent.
So an interesting take that I've heard is that, and from people, I think this makes a lot of sense, because you remember what happened when they switched from 30 pin to lightning, is that the normies are going to freak out. So a lot of tech enthusiasts get the benefits of USB-C, even though USB-C is quite frankly a dog's breakfast, because there's at least half a dozen, if not more, different variations of that. And it's impossible to tell by looking at the freaking cables regarding the amount of power they can transfer, the data transfer rates, et cetera, et cetera. Don't even get me started. But, we can agree at least a common connector is a step in the right direction, at least from, charging, whatever rate we happen to be charging at. Take a guess. But think of all the existing, cables that are out there and the e-waste issues, and people are like, oh, there goes Apple again. I mean, despite the fact that it's been 12 years or something like that, a lot of regular folks are going to think this is a cash grab by Apple.
Most of their other devices use USB-C. Most. What's left? The AirPods, the trackpad, the mouse. Okay, so there's a couple that use lightning stuff, but still, yeah.
Just get ready for it. Brace yourself for the normie rage. That's all I'm saying.
Ah, yes. I got my STFU mug ready to go.
Tasia, how about you? If you had to choose one.
It's the same for me. I'm excited for that because I've already got, like, as you know, some of the Pixel devices, which are USB-C. So she ready.
Okay, well, I'm going to depart from that because, I think it's a nice to have as far as I'm concerned. But for me, I will take the periscope style telephoto lens because I've always been a fan of high quality optical zoom, and there's only so much you can get on these little guys. They're so thin. My very first digital camera was a Sony Mavica camera with that recorded onto floppy disks. You could get about 10 VGA quality photos on a floppy disk, but it had beautiful thick boy glass Zeiss lens. Some amazing photos on that, despite their low resolution. 10 times optical zoom, 6 times is getting there. And that combined with the sensors and the computational photography and all that kind of stuff, I love me a good optical zoom. Not because I'm like creeping on people from a distance or anything like that, but sometimes this is nice to punch in a little bit. And I don't have time for a lot of post processing, quite frankly. So that would be my pick.
I like it.
All right. If you want to learn more about Tasia, we forgot to mention, where can people find out about all your ranting and raving?
I'll just go to tasiacustodi.com.
Boom.
That's where you can go.
That's it.
All right.
Yeah.
Gray, you're working on your online presence. We got to get you going with a updated site. Where's the best place for people to find you nowadays?
Here,
Here,
actually.
not so much on the X nowadays.
No.
I could put it up and then make it go away. There we go.
Yeah.
Fair
If you like
enough.
me elsewhere, don't. I don't want you there. Just come hang out with me here on Momentous.tv.
You can find us at momentous.tv /links for all the good stuff. Momentous.tv/team for our individual socials. Momentous.tv /podcast for the audio version of this experience. And we'll see you next week. And hopefully the week after that, Will Silver will be back. And until then, we hope your week is truly momentous.